With the NFL schedule officially out, been able to dig deep and find the best hidden news of this 49ers offseason, just as they've retaken the practice field. How about the best stat of the 49ers offseason, courtesy of Mr. Purdy himself? So many say that it's the system guiding Brock Purdy, but here is success rate on 3rd and long, 8 or more yards to go. Look who's at the top of the list. Brock Purdy, by a fairly wide margin over Josh Allen, Joe Burrow, and Jordan Love. Now, 3rd and long is the one scenario where Shanahan's system is least capable of helping Brock Purdy. You can talk all you want about first down being the schematic down, the coaches down, the game plan down. But 3rd down is the make a play down. 3rd and long is when a defense gets to play against the pass, pin their ears back with a pass rush. Defensive coordinators will throw their best at an opposing offense and quarterback on 3rd and long. And that is where Brock Purdy has been at his best. So this stat has gotten a lot of buts on the internet. Yeah, but Brock Purdy must be throwing short of the sticks. Well, this is hilarious because why don't we take a look at the actual data? Percentage of throws that have reached the sticks, the first down marker in these 3rd and long situations. Purdy at 52.1% is number 3 on this whole list. Much higher, 15 percentage points higher than Joe Burrow. Much higher than even a gunslinger like Baker Mayfield, who's at 49.8%. Higher than Matthew Stafford at 41.1%. Only Josh Allen and Jordan Love a little bit ahead of Brock Purdy in terms of throwing to the sticks. Now, Purdy has consistently had one of the highest air yards per attempt in the NFL ever since joining the league in 2022. And by the way, these stats, these are measuring the past 3 seasons, 2023, 2024, and 2025. In 2 of those 3 seasons, the 49ers have actually had the worst average separation from wide receivers in all football. So Brock Purdy has led the league on the quarterbacks down, where the system has had the biggest struggles helping him without proper wide receiver help, with arguably the worst wide receiver situation in the league. Should be getting a lot better for the 49ers this season. We've seen Mike Evans at OTAs and several other players, including a glowing Fred Warner. He's got that healthy glow about him. I think that Fred is ready for a historic season. Fully healthy, coming off of that ankle injury. All right, on to the good hidden news for the 49ers. I have run the calculations on Net Rest Differential as promised with the NFL's schedule release. And the numbers for the 49ers have come out to be acceptable. -3 on the Net Rest Differential if you do not count the funny business of the Australia game, which is going to create some jet lag complications for the 49ers coming back across the date line. If you do count that Australia game, which is being played on Friday in Australia and Thursday in the United States, as a game that is giving the 49ers extra rest, then they're actually at an even 0 in terms of Net Rest Differential. It could have been a whole lot worse. It could have been something that threatened to derail the season. Because in 2023 and 2024, the 49ers were around -3 weeks in Net Rest Differential. In 2024, they're actually a little bit above -20. This graph is just showing us the averages in 2023 and 2024. But the 49ers were playing 4 teams who are coming off their bye weeks in 2024. Obviously, the exhaustion caught up to San Francisco. Cumulative exhaustion probably over 2023 and 2024. 2025, the 49ers actually had a scheduling break. They didn't play any teams coming off of a bye week, and they were plus 12 days in Net Rest Differential. And it probably ended up being one of the things that helped the 49ers squeak through to win the 12 games over the regular season and then the 13th against Philadelphia, despite all of the injuries. Had they been in a similar situation as 2024 with a terrible rest advantage, I don't think the 49ers would have gone 12-5. So the fact that they're right around 0 this year means that the NFL schedule release has at least allowed the 49ers to hold serve when it comes to this 2026 slate. This, again, is more important than strength of schedule because you don't know how good teams are going to be in 2026. There's so much parity in the NFL. Teams that were bad last year can be good very quickly and vice versa. The most correlated number to actual success within the course of a season is the net rest differential, and this is where the 49ers are. Now, we can look exactly how this rest differential comes to be. Most games on the schedule, the 49ers are going to have the same amount of rest as their opponent, so those are just +0 games, but there are a handful of games, 6 of them to be precise, where the rest is imbalanced. The first one comes against the Atlanta Falcons. That is a 10 a.m. Pacific time start on the East Coast, one of only 2 10 a.m. Pacific time starts for the 49ers this season. But it's coming off of a Monday night game for San Francisco against Washington. So it's going to be a short week for the 49ers, not a short week for the Falcons. That means -1 in rest differential for that game. Then the 49ers play the Raiders coming off of their bye week, coming off of San Francisco's bye week. The Raiders will not be coming off of a bye week, so the 49ers will get a 7-day advantage in terms of rest differential. That, however, is canceled out, and this is a big one. This is not great news for the 49ers by the fact that the Seahawks will be coming to Levi's Stadium off of a bye. 49ers will be coming back from Mexico City. Now, a lot of people are making the whole Mexico City thing a huge deal. I don't think it's as big of a deal as people make it out to be. Mexico City's in the central time zone. It is a 3.5 to 4 hour flight to San Francisco. It is not like a game back east. Yes, the 49ers will be at altitude, but if anything, I think that might even help them for the course of the next week. You're going to have more red blood cells, right? After you're at 7,200 feet in Mexico City. So San Francisco does lose out on the rest for that game against the Seahawks, who are coming off of a bye. And then the other division rival, the Rams, they're coming off of a mini bye because they get to play Thursday Night Football ahead of their game against the 49ers. So that is another 3 days lost for the 49ers. However, the Kansas City game late in the season, the 49ers do get a couple of breaks. San Francisco will be coming off of Thursday Night Football, so mini bye +3 for them. And Kansas City is actually going to be on a short week coming off of Monday Night Football. So that's another day in the 49ers' favor. That's +4 for a game at Kansas City. 49ers have not beaten the Chiefs in a long, long time. And I think that any little bit of benefit is great for the 49ers in that regard. And they get it right there on both fronts, on their rest front and on the Chiefs' lack of rest on the short week. However, the very next week, the Eagles are going to get a mini bye because they play on Christmas Eve, and the 49ers play on the 27th against the Chiefs, and then the game against the Philadelphia Eagles on Sunday Night Football is on January 3rd. If there's any salvaging part of that, it's Sunday Night Football, so 4 hours of extra rest for the 49ers. They're going to need it more than the Eagles, who will be better rested at that point because the game doesn't start until 5:20 Pacific time. And of course, the Eagles are going to have to travel across country. You add all of this up, and it adds up to -3 for the 49ers. Again, there's been some debate about how you count Australia. The 49ers play on Thursday Pacific time in Australia, and their week 2 opponent, the Miami Dolphins, doesn't play until Sunday. So the Dolphins have the 7 days, and the 49ers are going to have 3 more days technically in between games, but they have to fly 15 hours back to San Francisco. They have to cross the date line. They're going to land before they took off. It's going to be super weird because you do cross the date line. No NFL team has ever had to cross the date line. The Rams and the 49ers are going to be the first to ever do it. And I think unquestionably that counts against at least some rest. And I think at least a couple days worth of rest. So for all intents and purposes, I'm calling that a wash. And we'll say that the 49ers are -3. If you only want to take 2 days away, if you're counting that Rams, 49ers, Australia travel thing differently, fine. 49ers are -2. Bottom line, though, is that they're right in the middle of the league this year in terms of net Rest Differential. They're not at the very bottom like the Chargers, who are minus 26. That's even worse than the 49ers 2024 number. Again, remember that the Chargers had to play 4 teams coming off their bye week, which is what the 49ers had to do in 2024, and it was absolutely disastrous. So when I talked about this schedule, I've been saying that this is the one number that was going to most probably impact what happens on the field in 2026. And all you want to do if you're the 49ers, and I know that this is out of your control, but the NFL has to do it for you. You want a drive down the fairway. You don't want to hit one right into the bunker, right into the trees, and then be playing behind the 8 ball, to mix a golf and a pool metaphor here. You want to be down the fairway, and the 49ers are down the fairway with this net rest differential. Now, of course, the schedule is tough on paper, at least, down the stretch run. And, 3 of the final 4 games are technically on the road. However, you look at one of those games at the Chargers, that is essentially a home game. It's SoFi, right? 49ers are going to have 80, maybe 90% of the stands, since it's the Chargers, not even the Rams at SoFi. Arizona Cardinals in week 18. We'll see if Mike LaFleur turns that team around. But the 49ers are also going to have the crowd in Arizona. They always do. So that's also is a rather softer, I would say, road game. The true road game there at the end, obviously, is going to be Kansas City, and the 49ers have the rest advantage for Kansas City, as I showed you, due to the parallel things happening there with the Chiefs schedule and the 49ers schedule. So that actually ends up being a little bit of a benefit for the 49ers. As I mentioned, only 2 10 a.m. Pacific time early body clock starts. There have been seasons with up to 5 for San Francisco. They've actually handled those games relatively well. So they figured that out with the time zone travel. It's still good news, though. I would say that the 49ers have only 2 of those. One, as I said, at Atlanta, week 7, ahead of the bye week. That could be a trap game coming off of the Monday Night Football game against Washington ahead of the bye week. And then the other one is for San Francisco at New York against the Giants in week 13. Last year, they played the New York Giants early as well, and they were able to win that game on the road. They did have a 10 a.m. start in Atlanta back in 2022, and they lost that game, though. So, I think NFC West fans, 49ers fans who remember the 1990s NFC West, we could put it more accurately, will remember that Atlanta used to be in the NFC West. So did New Orleans. So did the Carolina Panthers. So did the St. Louis Rams. And it didn't make any sense. It was like college football, where you've got Cal and Stanford with views of the Golden Gate Bridge on TV. Cal has a view of the Golden Gate Bridge in their stadium, playing in the Atlantic Coast Conference. Makes no sense, kind of like the NFC West of the 1990s. So the 49ers had to play these 10 a.m. games at Atlanta, at New Orleans, at Carolina. And those were always tough games for the 49ers, even if they were much better than those teams, because it is harder to get the body clock going. So we talk about that being difficult. Well, then you could also always discuss the potential impacts of the trip all the way to Australia for San Francisco. Training is going to continue for the 49ers here over the course of the next week. And then we're going to be in the building, not this coming week, but the one after that is when that final phase of OTAs begins. The actual 11 on 11 work. Right now, the 49ers aren't doing 11 on 11 work. They're just doing some intense team workouts. I don't know if they're doing Navy SEALs training this offseason. I think it'd be cool, since you've got Sons of Marines now as rookies, the 49ers top 2 picks, right? And Dejon Stribling and Romello Height on the football team. But looks like great attendance for the 49ers heading up into OTAs. We saw minicamp last week, and minicamp is only rookies and some second-year guys who are still eligible for it. Next step is seeing all of these rookies on the field with the veterans. You're seeing the whole squad for the first time. There won't be pads. It's going to be fairly light work, but there will be some 11 on 11 work. And boy, is that just something that gives us a little bit to chew on. We get to finally see that squad in action in a more of a real football sense before training camp, where the pads actually will come on. That's going to be late July, moving into early August. So the progression over the next couple of months is that it gets more and more real. The key for the 49ers is to stay as healthy as possible. And, in a couple of weeks, it's going to be June 1st. And that means that a lot of the salary cap stuff starts to be viewed more future forward. Trades, for example, can happen that don't impact the 2026 books as much. And, there might be one of A.J. Brown to New England. That's been one of the bigger rumors happening right now. But, if there is any retirement news, it usually comes after June 1st because of the salary cap impact and the ability to stave dead money off into the future. So financially, we'll also be turning the page firmly into 2026, and we'll have a very, very solid sense of where the 49ers are as a football team heading into this next season. I cannot wait. The pictures have gotten me excited. I think the schedule has gotten everybody excited as well. We knew that the Rams would be the opener, and now we know that there are those 3 home games right after that, which, by the way, I don't think is the best news for the 49ers, having games at 1 p.m., Levi's Stadium, September, early October. It's going to be hot, and 2 of those games are against warm weather acclimated teams. Against Arizona, I think the Cardinals practice outside in Arizona, and the Miami Dolphins, I'm not sure where they practice. I would think they have a bubble in Miami, but still, they're in the heat, especially over the course of the summer in Miami, and it could be toasty there at Levi's Stadium. That being said, the Rams got Monday Night Football coming off of Australia, so they get a day of extra rest. The 49ers don't, but then the Rams, that also means the Rams have a shorter week heading into week 3. 49ers have opted just for the space out, the longer rest between 2 and 3, as opposed to the 6 days or the short week for the Rams in between 2 and 3. So the 49ers hope to get everything reset with the 3-game homestand. Then they head to Seattle. They don't have to leave the West Coast until they head to Atlanta in week 7. And then immediately they have a bye. Of course, coming out of the bye, you have a home game. You're against the Raiders, but then the travel truly begins. Dallas, which is Central Time Zone. Minnesota, which is going to be in Mexico City, Central Time Zone, maybe a Mountain Time Zone stopover in Colorado Springs. Home against the Seahawks, who will be more rested. At the East Coast, back against the Rams, who will be more rested. Down to LA for a de facto home game against the Chargers, but a short week. Then to Kansas City, back home against Philadelphia, who's going to be more rested. Now, you do have the rest advantage against Kansas City. That might be the one bone the NFL has thrown the 49ers in this entire second half of the schedule, because it is tough. And then, of course, the finish against the division opponent, Arizona Cardinals, could end up being handy if the Cardinals aren't good on January 9th or 10th, depending on how the NFL schedules that Saturday or Sunday. It is never easy, but it is always worth it if you can find your way to navigate that NFL schedule. Always a marathon, always brutal. Depth is important. Youth is important. 49ers have spent this offseason reconstructing the roster. It's a job they started last year in 2025. They'll enter this year with the 3rd youngest defense in the NFL. They've got the oldest offense, but they like the experience on that side of the ball. The energy that they believe can carry them through this season, health permitting, comes on that defensive side of the ball. 49ers really, really want that defense to give them the spark through the finish line this year. And with the younger age there, the fresher players there, they believe that they can weather the storm of what is a very challenging 2026 schedule. 38,000 plus travel miles for the 49ers. But you know what? They may have the best quarterback in the league to guide them through it.